Hi guys, this is Mrs. Hayward and this is my first ever YouTube video, so it's very basic and I'm not really sure how to edit it, but I'm sitting in my garden and I thought this would be a perfect place for me to tell you the plot of DNA by Dennis Kelly. So what we're doing is we are looking at the three main locations that this play takes place in. So it takes place in the street with Jan and Mark. Then we go to the field where we've got Leah doing her big rambling monologues. Then we go to the woods or the forest where sort of everything happens. And then we go back to the field again. And that happens 4 times. So we have that as a cyclical structure that goes round and round. So the structure of it is cyclical. And that could be, I think, because in a way the actual issues of the play, so peer pressure, bullying, they're always there. So even when this set of teenagers grow up, there will be another set of teenagers that go through peer pressure and bullying. So that's why I think the play is cyclical in nature. It's also episodic in structure, which means there's lots of short, sharp scenes. So that means we can't have our big naturalistic sets, but we'll get onto that when we do a set video. So the plot of DNA starts off with Jan and Mark. We're thrown straight into it, hearing about someone who is dead. And that's obviously a bit of an issue. And then we go to the field and Leah is rambling on. Now, Leah is an interesting character because she's actually really insightful. So she compares humans to chimps and bonobos. So bonobos, she says, are very sociable. And, you know, as soon as a new bonobo turns up, they're all like, oh, hi, come and join us. So Leah is very much like a bonobo, same as me. And then some humans, she says, are like chimps, which is as soon as you see a chimp who is maybe less like able or less cool or slightly injured, all the chimps will attack it and kill it. So a bit like sort of the rest of the gang in DNA, basically. So she is often quite insightful with her rambling monologues. And then Jan and Mark enter and they're like, you've got to come with us, something bad's happened. And then we find John Tate and the rest of the gang and they tell us what happened to Adam and they basically bullied him to death. So it started off as a few lols, silliness, but basically sort of harmless, where they got him to eat some leaves. Okay, bit weird, but fine, whatever, we'll let it go. Then they got him to burn his socks. Okay, right, whatever, that's odd. And then they say, you know, what won't he do? He nicked some vodka from the shops. He was scared, but, you know, he was trying to be, like, big and hard. Okay, this is escalating quite badly. And then he let us punch him in the face. He was laughing at first, but he was crying as well. Obviously, as you would if someone was punching you in the face for like an hour. They were stubbing out cigarettes on him. They made him run across a motorway. And then they took him up to this big grill where it's like a massive hole with like massive slats in it. And they started throwing stones at him and he fell and he died. So they basically peer pressured and bullied him to death. And the group are now like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And Phil, who hasn't yet spoken at this point, comes up with this utterly genius plan. And the genius plan, considering he has only just thought of this, and it really is genius, is basically to split up into 2 groups. And the first group is going to break into Adam's house, like sneaking through a window or something, and collect a jumper. And they're going to have to wear gloves for this, otherwise they're going to get their fingerprints all over the jumper. But they're going to collect a jumper, and they're going to walk in front of like a random person, like you, maybe. They're going to walk in front of you, and they're going to just like drop the jumper. And you, because you're a nice person, pick it up and like, oh, you dropped your jumper, and then it's going to have your DNA all over it. And they'll open up a bag, and they'll be like, oh, thanks so much, we're just taking it to charity shop. Can you put it in here? And they put it in there. And then they're going to take it to the woods and like cover it with mud and stuff. And then obviously Adam's jumper will be found. And then the second group is going to have Brian in it. And Brian is going to go crying to the police and say that a fat, balding, white postman showed Brian his willy in the woods. And so basically that is probably going to be the same person that killed Adam or took him away. And so obviously the police are going to go and hunt a fat, balding postman. And then they're going to find the jumper, but the jumper's got your DNA on it. And you're obviously not a fat, balding postman. And so the case will remain unsolved. So no one except Adam, sadly, has suffered Great plan, Phil. Well done. However, things take a bit of a turn when it seems that Kathy shows initiative. Well done, Kathy. And she's in group 1 and she gets the jumper and everything. Great. Well done, Kathy. And she actually goes down to the post office and finds a fat balding postman to get the DNA off. So the police now have in custody a fat balding white postman with bad teeth. Apparently there's loads of them out there, according to Kathy. And it's got his DNA on the jumper. So an innocent bloke is now going to go to jail for something that this group of kids have done. So Leah and Brian are now like massively freaking out. Like, we've really got to tell someone, you know, this has escalated. And Phil says to Adam, not to Adam, he's dead. Says to Brian, you know, if you go and say anything, and if you don't cooperate with us, we will take you up to the grill and we will kill you as well. So really, really bad. And then in part 3, it turns out that Adam is alive. He's been spending the past 5 weeks living in the forest, eating dead animals and being sick, berries and like grass and stuff. He hit his head really badly, so he's like concussed and is feeling a bit like, ooh, obviously as you would do if you hit your head and been living for 5 weeks in the forest. And so the group find him. Kathy and Brian found him actually, and Kathy like found him living in a hedge and like dragged him out and like presented him to the group. And so great, this is really good news. Leah thinks fantastic. You know, this means that actually everything's going to be fine, because Adam's alive. But Phil thinks, problem is this has kind of escalated too much already, and things can only go downhill from here, basically. So what we're going to have to do is kill Adam, for real. Brian has already totally lost the plot at this point anyway, because he's gone mad, basically through guilt, so doesn't really know what he's doing. And so Phil says to Kathy, you know what you need to do. And Leah's like, oh, great, you're talking to Kathy now, like I'm not even, like, I don't even exist. And Phil shows on Brian an example of what he means, and he puts the plastic bag on Brian's head, basically suffocate him. And Kathy and Brian, because Brian has no clue anyway, take Adam off, and they kill him, for real this time. And Leah's obviously really shocked. And then we end with Phil sitting by himself and Richard there doing a massive monologue. Basically, Leah has left. Yes, go Queen. We don't want you, you know, being dragged down by that group anymore. She's left. John Tate has found Christianity. Brian has been locked up in a psych ward and is apparently drooling, facing the wall. So that's awful. Kathy's in charge of the group now and has apparently been bullying physically younger students. So it's just all gone really, really wrong. So that is the plot of DNA in a nutshell. Yeah. Bye.